If you watched the Super Bowl, you saw one thing, utter dominance. And that started up front with that Eagles defensive line and of course led by Jalen Carter. And I can promise you one thing, these teams saw that. They said, okay, it's almost impossible to beat the Chiefs, but now the blueprint is out if it wasn't already. We need to get these big boys up front, and we're going to be ranking those guys today. Also, this is a relatively brand new channel, so if you enjoy, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell a friend to tell a friend. But I do want to say I love this defensive tackle class. Let's get into it. At number 10 is Deone Walker at 6'6", 345. Insane, I guess, size here going into the next level. And I'll start with this. It was a down year production-wise. This past year, he only had 22 pressures, 4 sacks, and a 10% win rate, which again, 4 sacks at the defensive position, defensive tackle position is actually good. But when you look at his numbers from 2023, you're like, what happened, right, over a year's time? Last year, he had, again, more than double pressures. He had double the sacks, and he had a 5% better win rate as far as his interactions with the interior offensive line. And again, getting to the quarterback. So his numbers are down in a bad way, right, in 2024. But then you look deeper to it. What happened? Why is such a dramatic change in the production that we saw in the stat sheet for Deone Walker? Well, he played through an injury. I think he played through a couple injuries, and this is a guy that's been well documented again at Senior Bowl weekend. Deone Walker has the tools, but let's just, man, he should have known, or he should have somebody in his ear to say, let's take a couple weeks off and then get back to the field so these numbers aren't suffering as much as they eventually did. At number 9 is TJ Sanders. He was one of the most talented players on that crazy second half defense that we saw out of the Gamecocks. But 33 pressures, 5 sacks, a 13% win rate, which again, those are solid numbers across the board. This is a guy that I think if he goes super high, it's because of his ability to defend the run. He's so quick off the ball and he's so quick with his hands in general that this is a guy that just causes so many tackles behind the line and he just blows up plays in general, even if those don't touch the stat sheet. TJ Sanders is just great at defending the run. Pass rush could use a little bit of work, but again, as a defensive interior lineman, I want to see that run defense be elite, right? And I think TJ Sanders presents that to any team that might draft him as early as day 2. Now, I've thrown around this, I guess, phrase a couple times in these ranking videos, but honestly, maybe the biggest winner of Senior Bowl weekend was Darius Alexander out of Toledo at 6'4", 305. He brings good size to the next level. And last year, you look at his stats, you say, well, he only had 8 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Those aren't crazy numbers, but he had a pick six, ladies and gentlemen. It was only a 4-yard pick six, so again, it was right in front of the end zone. But at 6'4", 305, if you can get a pick six and you're, I guess, have the ball skills that are good enough to recognize that situation, hey, those are all good signs for the next level. But he's a really impressive run defender, just like TJ Sanders. But I think he's just more of a disruptor than TJ up front, and that's why, again, he's one spot above. He has long arms, I think, again, which NFL teams are going to love. And like I mentioned, maybe the biggest winner at Senior Bowl weekend. The things that I worry about is he needs to have a bit more of a plan, right, as far as his pass rushing attack. But again, grab some of these big boys, not necessarily for the overall package, but they have a designed role. And for Darius, I think at the next level, it's just going to be a run stuffer. And I think in round 2, maybe day 3, early day 3, you're going to hear his name called. Now, this might ruffle some feathers, but honestly, I'm trying so hard to see what everybody else sees in these Texas A&M defensive linemen, right? To me, I'm not seeing this elite top 8 pick draft, top 8 pick in the NFL draft like everybody else is seeing. So maybe I'm in the wrong here. And again, please let me know down below what game should I go look at for Shamar Stewart. But at 6'6", 290, again, the size is there. And last year, the production was there as well. 40 pressures, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. Almost a 10% win rate. He was third team all SEC. And at times, this is a dude that has one of the most explosive first steps, I guess, getting off the line again, compared to all the other interior defensive linemen in this class. The things I worry about is just his pass rushing ability. But like I mentioned, some of these guys will have designed roles, and even though his hand usage isn't the greatest, those are technical things I think that can be fixed at the next level. The biggest red flag to me was the fact that this dude doesn't finish plays, right? There's so many times on tape where I was watching where he would disrupt the play early, But if the player on the offensive side was able to still make something happen, Shamar Stewart wasn't the guy that was trying to stop it, right? He wasn't making that second effort. So initially off the ball, great production. You love what you see, but he doesn't finish plays often. So to me, that was a big red flag as far as his effort and his motor going it to the next level. And that's why I don't have him as high as these other guys. But again, maybe I'm in the wrong here. Maybe everybody else that's having him as a top 8, top 10 pick, maybe I'm just not there yet. Now, in my top 5 or 6 guys, I love all these guys, and I think all these guys could be day 2 picks and up, right? And I think all these guys could just be true disruptors at the next level. Alfred Collins out of Texas at 6'5", 320. Last year, as a first-year starter, had 18 pressures and a sack. So, again, not the craziest production, but as a first-year starter in the SEC, you love to see it. He was one of the best run defenders in the nation. Again, I keep on pressing on that fact, but I love that ability at the next level for these big boys up front. He's strong, man. I think he has long arms, and he's just uber athletic. So again, athletically brings everything that you want to see. You're worried about the production. You want to see that, I guess, translate and get better at the next level. But outside of that, man, he only had a 7% win rate, which is not ideal. But again, first year in the SEC as a first-year starter. That's the reason why I have him at like number 5 or 6 on my rankings. We'll talk about it at the end of the video. But as of right now, I want to see him, polish up his game a little bit. But again, that's why I think he's going to be a day 2 pick. And some team's going to grab him and love his tools. And who knows, maybe he could be a sneaky quality player down the line. Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, of course, national champion. So I want to shout out to Tyleik there. First time in the 12-team playoff. I want to mention that with all the Ohio State Buckeye players because, again, being the first to do anything is always special. But 20 pressures, 3 sacks, okay numbers. This is a guy that is just insanely strong. He wins by strength almost every single play, whether if he's got you with one hand or 2 hands in a bull rush. This is a guy that I think just has a very high floor due to his strength alone, and that is saying a lot, saying that he's going to the next level. He might honestly be the best run defender in the class because he has a better motor than Shamar Stewart, but he's also maybe stronger than anybody else in this class as far as being an interior defensive lineman. The things you worry about, again, is his pass rush ability, but also he only has 7% win rate. So I honestly, I think they measure those statistics based on can you get away from your defender, right? Tyleik Williams is just pushing his defender into the play every single time. So I'm not worried about his win rate necessarily as much as other people. But again, his raw power and his strength ability alone, it's going to translate to the next level. But how productive can he be outside of his strength? That's why I have him, again, not in my top 4. Now, when we get into the top 4, we're not only talking about game disruptors. We're talking about potentially franchise-altering championship level pieces that could be drafted by any team, right, in their championship, I guess, journeys. But Kenneth Grant, man, you can argue that this dude is honestly the best defensive tackle in the class. That is how crazy that this defensive tackle class is to me. But 27 pressures, 3 sacks, a 10% win rate, massive NFL size frame. He has the strength to match guys like Tyleik Williams, who I just raved about for 5 minutes, it seems like. And this is a guy that I think can move too. Of course, we all point to that, clip of his junior year, 2 years ago, the year they won the title, where Kaytron Allen, running back for Penn State, got a screen pass, was about 20 yards down the sideline, and nobody was tackling him until the 6'3", 340-pound Kenneth Grant tracked him down and, of course, tackled him on the sideline. So Kenneth Grant, the motor's there, all the tools are there for him, and I could honestly see him going as high as maybe the mid-teens in the first round of the NFL draft. Now, I wouldn't say the draft ceiling is as high as these other top 4 guys for Derek Harmon, but I can still see this being a first-round pick. Again, a 6'5", 310, massive frame, and his production may be the best in the class as far as looking at stats alone. 55 pressures, 5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Insane already right off the bat, right? And then when you combine the size, you might say, I don't need to see anything else. Just give me him on my team. But 17.5% win rate. This is a guy that is insane, right? I think he gives you one of the best combinations of pass pro, attack, and also being just a superb run defender. This is a guy that at MSU last year, 2 years ago, was great at MSU. I think he regressed a little bit this year at Oregon, but he did drop weight. I think he dropped about 15 to 20 pounds. So I want to see if he wants to come to the NFL at 310 like last year, or if he wants to gain a little bit of weight just to be even better in the run game like he was 2 years ago and in years prior for the Spartans. But I think this is a guy that again gives you a very strong combination of being great in pass rush and in the run game. And you saw last year the breakout numbers speak for themselves. Derek Harmon to me is a top 3 tackle in this class. Now we get into two guys at the top of this list that have top 10 grades, and we're going to start with maybe my favorite prospect in this entire class. Ladies and gentlemen, get to know Walter Nolen, 6'3", 305. The size is there, right? But the production and his strength is even better. This is a guy that had 35 pressures and 6 sacks last season, a 10.5% win percentage. He was first team All SEC, and he's uber strong. I think he's on the same level of the Tyleik Williams of the world. He is so strong. He eats double teams almost every single play, and he's still pushing 2 guys back on any given play, right? He's just that strong. He doesn't make many mistakes. He doesn't have penalties. He doesn't, I guess he fills the gaps that he needs to fill in run game. And I just think that he gives you this elite high floor, but also higher ceiling. So outside of overall polishing, I think that this is the dude that could go as high to me in my mock drafts, and maybe in the late top 10. But again, I think right now the consensus is that he's going to be a late first round guy. I think that's a mistake. I think he should be the second tackle off the board. And I think any team that grabs him is going to have a future All-Pro on their hands. But if you want to talk about a guaranteed All-Pro player that you can draft in this year's draft, it's Mason Graham. I mean, the size is there. You see the production on your screen. This is a guy that just has a strong, violent, pass rushing and just overall style to his game. I think he's one of the most complete tackle prospects that we've seen over the last decade. But honestly, I think you could say that he's one of the most talented prospects that we've seen ever at the defensive tackle position. He's very explosive off the ball and when he has his closing speed, right? If the team tries to run an outside zone away from him, he can still track that running back down before he gets any significant yardage. Mason Graham is the complete package, and to me, I think I have him as a top 5 guy in this class. Outside of overall polishing like Walter Nolen, Mason Graham's going to be special at the next level. But here is my top 10. Of course, 4 guys in this class are top 25. And again, I think all those guys are really top 15. But for Mason Graham, a 96 overall grade. He is second, right? Tied for second as far as the highest graded player in this class for me behind Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. Regardless, he's special, ladies and gentlemen. He can go as early as number 5 in the draft. Walter Nolen, again, gets a top 10 grade for me. Derek Harmon and Kenneth Grant, again, guys that have top 25 grades, but are really top 15. Tyleik Williams, Alfred Collins. There we go, right? Don't want to disrespect his name. Shamar Stewart, Darius Alexander, TJ Sanders, and Deon Walker to round out the top 10. A lot of solid guys on the interior defensive front. And given what the Eagles just did, these guys are going to fly off the board.